Hello and welcome to the Solo RolePlayers Podcast. Now, this is a bit of a new concept. This is not something I've done before. For those of you who listen to my other show, A Wasteland Story, you may realize it's a pretty slow endeavor to be able to do. It's weeks of writing, doing a little bit every day, and the actual play time to the writing time and the mixing time, it's dwarfed in comparison. And that's fine. I really enjoy that part of it. I really like how it allows me to sort of craft a bigger story. But I did want to try doing something that just was a little bit more off the cuff, unscripted, and I could just sit down and do in a single session. We've talked about with some of the guests already on this show about the possibility of doing some one-shot type things. And I don't know if this episode has come out yet or not. I'm not sure where I'm going to release this exactly, but I did recently interview Tana Pigeon from the author of Mythic, and she talked a little bit about an idea that I had bubbling around in my head anyway, which was about just picking up a game and starting to play. And that's something I'm really excited to do. I'm going to call it like my one-shot part of the series or something. Today is not quite that. Today, I just want to have a look at... I just want to play some DragonBane. I love DragonBane. I haven't played much of it. And I talked about on the episode with Thomas, from Board Games with Thomas, and even with Man Alone, I think, a little bit about that first... like the core solo rules that come with DragonBane, and how they're an interesting structure between giving you some hand-holding and some structure, and then also freedom to be able to play solo. What happened when I did that? So maybe let me just read you the setup of that very first mission into the breach. I don't think there's really spoilers because you're creating a lot of it yourself. But basically, in that mission, what happens is you come across this cool wolf guy who has a magical eye who can see down into the depths of this breach. And there's important and dangerous stuff going on down there. And he implores you to go down and initially to go and rescue a captive orc that's down there. Now, this is a 6-part plot that goes on. Long story short, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. I really liked doing it that way. But something struck me. There was some friction there because the only other solo role-playing I'd played before that was doing the Fallout thing with A Wasteland Story, where it was a complete sandbox. I'm using Mythic to... There's nothing in the way of the story. There was no structure, no plan, apart from a very loose sort of endpoint. And while I really enjoyed this, and I am going to continue going down through this, and I do want to do some of the published modules of DragonBane because I think they're really cool. But what happened during that play, and it wasn't recorded, unfortunately, but what happened during that play was that as I was exploring down through these ruins, I was rolling on some inspiration tables, and my character came across this ancient and important magic grimoire, which sort of... I think it went invisible and sort of followed my character around, and then it kind of somehow, I can't remember how it happened, but it sort of involved itself in the battle when I was rescuing this captive orc, and actually helped out, mostly because I was going to die and I was sort of looking for any sort of help. And to me, I thought I was just going to say, okay, cool, that was just an incidental thing that we found. I don't think it has any meaning because it would be hard to fit it into this structure of the solo Alone in Deepfall Breach solo rules. And straight away I started having these ideas come up to me of, oh, well, I mean, this book is clearly really important. It's maybe got something to do with the resurgence or apparent resurgence of dragons and demons in this world. If you don't know about DragonBane, check it out. Cool game, cool setup. I might talk about some lore, not sure. And so what I wanted to do is I could straight away see this adventure of my character, who I may introduce right now, who is Hackelswell Stonehammer McGee, and he is a very old, very grumpy duck. He's very slow because he's old, but he's got a lot of wisdom, quite experienced, and he's a weaponsmith or crafter. So my appearance description is short, plump, with a chipped gold tooth, also duck. He's ill-tempered, So he can get angry whenever he wants by spending willpower points to allow him to get a reroll. He gets a boon to swimming because he's a duck, and he's a master tanner. That's what it is. So he's allowed to craft armor. And so obviously I want to find some beasts that I can craft armor into. Anyway, I could just picture this Hackelswell fella and this unlikely couple of Hackelswell and this orc who he rescued, who, I mean, orcs are bad guys in his experience, really, and so he sort of reluctantly rescued this orc because of the importance that Ingolfer, I think his name is, pressed upon them. And so I thought, well, these guys have got to go on an adventure and find out what this book is. Maybe it needs to be delivered to someone so that they can stop some world-ending cataclysmic disaster or something like that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these guys. So basically, they nearly died. The orc was nearly dead. They did manage to escape the goblins who were attacking them. They got out and back up to the chapel, which is where Ingolfer was waiting for them. And I think we're going to start at that point, and we're going to find out from Ingolfer if he knows what this book is, and if we can figure out its importance, and maybe just go on a little quest to maybe find someone or deliver it somewhere or learn more about it. I'm not really sure. Now, I am going to do something differently as well. Usually I like to play with one character in all games. I like to get into the space of one character and just worry about them. However, I did start this character, Hackelswell, with my son. We sort of had an experimental little play, solo play, well, cooperative play, I guess, and he made a character as well, which was an elf hunter, a young elf hunter who had been escaping a dragon attack on their village. I wonder if I remember where it was. The village in the Iron Forest, I believe, looking at this beautiful Misty Vale map that comes with the DragonBane core set. And I think I'm just going to we're going to just talk to Ingolfer and see what's going on. And I think when we get up there, we're going to meet this young elf called Legoran. Definitely not a Legolas reference. Legoran? Might be Legoran. Can't read his handwriting. I think Legoran's going to be there, or maybe we have to go and... Okay, I think we're going to head off on some little quest, and along the way, we're going to run into Legoran. That's the only setup I'm going to do. We have a book. The orc may well be too sick and needs to sort of recover, and so it might be just Ingolfer and Hackelswell that go off to try and get more information or something. Along the way, they're going to run into Legoran at some stage, and at some stage, they're going to return and maybe head off on an adventure with this orc. I'm not sure. That's the beauty of the dice. Let's just see what happens. So, I'm only going to be using tools from the DragonBane core set. I've got a bunch of other tables here and stuff I was tempted to use, but I like the idea of just keeping it contained here. This is going to be edited, so it takes out a lot of the umming and ahhing and thinking about things, and try and keep it as much of a entertaining listening experience as possible, I guess, without actually it being a crafted narrative like the Fallout one is. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm just going to try, and then when I edit it and see if it's interesting, I will decide whether I ever release it or not. My goal for this is I just want to play, and I like playing, talking out loud, and exploring my thoughts and interpretations out loud rather than just writing everything down. I did, in that session I played, actually this is an interesting note, in that session I played, for those of you who haven't worked out how you're going to actually record stuff yet, I had only really recorded stuff doing the Wasteland Story podcast, where I am just writing really basic notes. So an entire session, an entire episode, I just checked one today because I was working on the script this morning, and the entire episode was about a half an A4 page of writing. When I did this little small, hour-long Alone in Deepfall Breach adventure mission thing, about 4 pages of writing, And that's cool if you like doing that, but I kind of like just keeping my hands on the dice and my head in the game and not thinking about my terrible handwriting. So, long-winded explanation. 2 reasons I want to do this. 1, I just want to play DragonBane, and I want to talk out loud while I do it, and then it feels better if I have a microphone there. 2, this is not necessarily a big, long story that I am intending people to get, or expect people to get invested in and follow along with. I mean, hey, if it works out that way, great. But really, it's more like a bit of a one-shot idea to give listeners, give them a bit of insight into how solo role-playing works for me. You see that on YouTube with a lot of stuff, and I think that's really great. But I do find the audio medium for me is more accessible because I can listen to stuff while I'm doing other things. And when I do sit down to watch telly, I don't necessarily want to watch an hour and a half of someone doing a playthrough, but I do want to get a feel of what they're doing. And I am interested in what they're doing, and they're doing a great job and all that, but I'm then stuck on the couch for an hour and a half. So, as I've always done in my life, I'm kind of making the thing that I want to see. Who knows if it works? Let's see. Let us start. So, we have come back up. Let's say we got back up there. Ingolfer is there. We deliver the dwarf back. I mean, basically carrying him, dragging him at this point. Ingolfer has some healing abilities, according to his stats. And so I think Ingolfer has sort of set up this dwarf in a sick bed there, somewhere off to the side in this chapel. Let me give you a description of this chapel, perhaps, as you can hear the train going past me. The Chapel and the Wolf. The nameless chapel stands at the edge of Deepfall Breach. The mortared stones of the structure have stood fast against time, wind, and calamity, but its stained-glassed windows lie scattered in shards, and the heavy oaken doors hang loose and creaking on ancient hinges. Good sentencing there, BJ. So there's a little bit more about how your character comes in and meets the thing. We don't care about that. I just want to give a bit of a feeling for this dilapidated chapel that we find ourselves in. And on the map, it's sort of in the middle of nowhere a little bit, and it's sort of sitting over this ripped, red glowing crack in the earth, which is the breach. Which we're not going to, I don't think, unless the dice tell us so. So that's where we are, and we have returned with this grimoire, and after Ingolfer has come back from tending the patient, and he says something like, yes, you did well to return this troublesome or troubled creature. There is a plot going on, and he's going to take some time to heal before we can find out more about what was going on down there. 3 days at least. Then Hackelswell starts showing Ingolfer the book and says, well, I found this sort of along the way. I don't know if it's important. It feels like it's pretty powerful. I don't really know about magic or anything like that. And so let's see what Ingolfer says about it. Okay, so we have exploration tables. We're going to use that to find out where we have to go. But in order to find out what we have to do, let's roll a d20, not on Mythic. This is on the inspiration table in Alone in Deepfall Breach. We're going to roll a d20 and see what the action is. The action is rescue. Okay. Let's think about who we have to rescue. Let's look at an attribute then. That is a 16. That is a peaceful. Okay, so let's say that in this book, Hackelswell wasn't able to touch it even. It was sort of ephemeral. But Ingolfer sits down at the table and he says, wow, what is that? That is clearly a powerful artifact. And he sits down and he sort of waves his hands over it a little bit. And the book relaxes. It sort of like flops open on the table and it becomes more physical in some way. And so as he's flicking through this, he's completely ignores Hackelswell for a while. And Hackelswell he's a bit annoyed that he has done this incredible job for, he risked his life. He nearly died. He saved this guy. He hasn't been given anything for his trouble. And he comes in and now this bloody wolf dude is sitting there and completely ignoring him while he pores over this book. So the duck is sort of standing and grumbling to himself and like tapping his flappy foot on the floor as he waits. And it takes ages. And Engulfer, after a while, flicks through some more of the pages and closes the book. And as he closes the book, a little flutter of paper comes out of it. And it says, if anyone finds this book, it's in a different hand to the book. It's in a scrawled, maybe not even particularly, like not flowery language, not written by like some self-important mage or something, but there's just a scribble in there saying, you need to rescue. If anyone finds this book, I have been taken. This book is more important than anything else in this world. Or this maybe that's a bit too dramatic, but this book is incredibly important to the resurgence, they call it. But if you find this, it means I am gone, and it means peaceful. Rescue, peaceful. Let's do the third thing, the thing as well. Ooh, that's a 1. Rescue, peaceful, barrier. Okay, change that. The book was stolen. It had been held somewhere in a magical barrier because it is so important. And the book had been stolen and sort of taken down into the breach by some cultists or something who want to use it for bad things. And we need to rescue the sacred barrier, which means we need to return the book to its home, to its sacred place, and reinstall the magical barrier so that it does not fall into the wrong hands. This is good. Now, what I'm going to do, let's ask Fate question. Is the orc coming with us? I think it's unlikely because he's sick. I think we will get back to the orc as a character at some stage, but Engulfer's pretty cool. But maybe Engulfer doesn't come with us. Okay. Let's slow down. Let's ask a Fate question. Normal odds. Will Engulfer come with us? I rolled 2 dice. Happily, they were both a 1, which means an extreme no. Engulfer will not be coming with us. He says he needs to stay here and look after the orc. He cannot abandon the chapel of all the horrors and evils that are down there. It is his sacred task to keep watch over the breach. He couldn't even go down there to help you, I don't think, because he needed to be out there defending it. So he says extreme no. He will not come. He will not leave. But we need to do this. And we probably can't do it alone, so we need to go and find someone to help. But that person cannot know the real reason for this quest. Excellent. And that is going to be where we run into Legoran. Probably at the bar in Outskirts, or maybe on the way, I'm not yet sure. We will see. Is the orc well enough to come with us? I'm going to say it's unlikely, which means we're rolling 2d6 and taking the lower. Nope, both of them are a no. So the orc will not come with us. We are venturing out alone once again to find someone to help us. And we're going to go to Outskirt. And I think I want to find out, okay, do we know where the book has to go? I think that's likely. Because there was a note in there. So I'm not even going to roll. Yes, we know where the book has to go, but let's see where it is. Let me see. Somewhere that looks peaceful and tranquil on the map. Okay, I see up here in the northwest on the Misty Vale map, there is a sort of Stonehenge type construction in the clearing in the forest of the Magna Woods. I think that's where we're going. I think we need to take the book there. That's a place of some ancient power. That's why you build a Stonehenge there, I assume. And I think we need to go there. If that is not the place... Okay, is that the place, or is that the place that's going to tell us where the place is? Nope, it's not the place. But that means we need to go there in order to find out where exactly this book needs to go. That's going to be quite a trek. We are going to go past Outskirt, the name of the main village here in the Misty Vale, and we're going to see what happens along the way. That's a pretty long setup. I'm enjoying it. Let's see. Okay. Maybe I'll put this out as a test episode or something, see if I can get some feedback. I'm not sure. I also don't know the rules of DragonBane very well, so there is a little bit of, let's call it encouragement. You can actually get in and play without having read a big hardcover book cover to cover. Let's go. As adventurers in the world of DragonBane, the player characters must often journey through dark forests, rugged moors, and high mountains. A journey can be much more than a way of just getting somewhere. It can be a little adventure in itself. That's what we want. Who knows what lies in wait around the corner. Okay, so for travel, they proceed in shifts. A shift is 6 hours, so that allows us to hike for 15 kilometers, or take a rest, for example. A stretch is 15 minutes and a round is 10 seconds. So there are 4 shifts in a day: morning, day, evening, and night. And as a rule, you can roughly hike 15 kilometers per shift on foot, or 30 k's on horseback. Okay, so we're going to go on a journey, and I think we're going to ask if we have some sort of random encounter. There's a little deck of adventure cards here. I haven't actually looked at them yet, so I don't know what that's going to do. We might pull one, see if it makes sense. Otherwise, we'll roll for some random encounters, something like that. Let's see, are we following a path? I don't know if Ingolfer knows exactly where this thing is. What's it called? What is it called? Now, I'm not sure we have names in the Deepfall Breach. Ooh, this is what I was looking for. Oh, man. I knew this existed somewhere, and it's in the core rulebook and not in the Alone in Deepfall Breach. This is where we can build up a quest. That is exciting. You get to roll one of every dice and come up with a quest. Unfortunately, I've already got my quest. I have to do that next time. Maybe, okay, once we get to the Stonehenge place, then I think we probably have to roll up a quest. I'm not sure. Maybe another quest comes along. I don't know. It's all very exciting. Creating NPCs. Wonderful. Mishaps. I love this. Random encounters. During a journey, the player characters can encounter the strangest creatures from far and near. Once per shift, or whenever you deem appropriate, you can roll on a table for random encounters. Okay. Let's test it out. Halfway to Outpost. Is that what it's called? Halfway to Outskirt. We do have a random encounter because we just want to test the experiment and test the system. We're going to roll on the location details. It is a location, so we have a D4 for that. We're going to roll on the area. Let's do it one at a time, and we'll see what comes up as we go. So, what do we come across? We come across environment. Good. What sort of environment is it? Now we go to a D20 table on the subtitles. It is a corroded surfaces. Okay, so I think as we're walking... So, just alone. Hackelswell is walking along. He's pretty grumpy about this whole situation. Now, he still didn't get a reward for helping out this wolf dude, and he finds himself, like, he's angry at himself because he doesn't know why he keeps saying yes to this fella and keeps just doing what he asks. I mean, he doesn't know anything about magic or this book or anything. Like, why does he even care? Not sure what his backstory is yet. We'll come back to that. So he's angry at himself, and he's sort of stomping very slowly through the woods, through the fields here, and he starts to notice he doesn't get very far out. Maybe he gets sort of an hour or two out, and he didn't notice for the first couple of hours because he was just so angry. But then once he starts to calm down, he does start to notice that there are corroded surfaces around, as in parts of rock seem to have like holes pulling into them, almost like they are, something is sucking out like, when you suck on a Malteser, something is sucking out the insides of these rocks and the parts of the ground, and perhaps even it is the deep fall breach that is spreading its corruption. So he goes over and he goes to inspect one of these corroded surfaces and sort of gingerly touches it to see if it crumbles, and it doesn't. Like, it's surprisingly to him, it's a really solid piece of rock still. It just looks like it's got this crumbling hole in it, but it's not that it's rotted out feeling or crumbly or anything like that. It's quite a strange experience. And then he hears from behind him, "Don't move. I've got an arrow aimed right at your head." And he turns around and he sees this very young elf character, very nervous, holding a bow at full length. I mean, it does the bow does look very comfortable in the elf's hands, but you can see that this is not the first choice of what this person wanted to do. He doesn't look like he's trying to rob him or something like that, but just he's obviously seen something that could be a threat. This little armored duck fellow with his hammer and whatever else, and I think he's pretty desperate, this Legoran character. And Hackelswell turns around and he says, "Would you put that thing away? Don't be ridiculous. What are you?" And the elf sort of doesn't know what to do and sort of says, "Okay, you promise not to attack me. You pinky promise." And so they start talking. And so Hackelswell asks him sort of, what his story is. He explains he doesn't want to talk about it actually, but he says he's looking for a village that he's always heard of, that are in these parts. And so Hackelswell says, "Well, I mean, I'm going to the village as well, so you might as well, come along. You look pretty good with that bow. So we're not friends, but we might as well, just watch each other's back until we get there. So that's all good, and they do that, and that's fine. Does anything come across them while they are discussing? I think it is 50-50. That is a 3. Nothing finds them. Oh, we didn't have a threat. We need to build a threat. I really like the idea of a threat. It's something always pushing you forward. Let's see what the threat might be. Traps riddle your path. Okay. No, that's all right. Let's stick with it. So that's more sort of being in a dungeon and stuff, but that's okay. We're gonna just go with that. So this says that the threat is traps riddle your path, and when the threat triggers, the threat is a die that I have, which is currently set to 1. And as we do things that take time, especially, just time in general, but also especially things that take extra time, like looking for loot or, spot hidden as it is in this game, the threat ticks up. And when the threat hits 6, something happens. In this case, we will spring a trap. So the threat, we're going to say it goes up to 2 because we were traveling for a few hours there. And we get to default, we get to outskirts. We want to talk to a few people. Let's see if we can find someone to tell us. We have a loose path. I think Engulfer with his magical eye could see that it was northeast and at the foot of the mountain range. So that gives us a pretty good shot, but it could take us a lot longer if we don't know exactly where we're going. So we're going to start asking around town and see if anyone can give us better directions. So let's create an NPC. Let's just say, who do we come across? Something else I read recently in, I think it was DM Yourself, about not forgetting to immerse yourself. So they have a thing called an immersion table, which is where you roll a d6 and you either get like sight, smell, sound, whatever else. And then you just take a second to sit down and imagine the sight, smell, sound of that thing for your character, and it helps sort of put you in the world. Can't remember exactly what they are, not going to look it up now, but I'm going to roll a d4, sight, smell, sound, and feel? Yeah, feel. So, sight. So as we come up to outskirt, there's no other complications. They're not really talking much. I mean, this elf, as young people tend to do, young, enthusiastic people, I'm sort of thinking boyhood, teenager sort of thing here. Probably, I don't know, 18, 19. I met this 17-year-old guy recently on holiday in Croatia. We were in, it was like an old castle used heavily in Game of Thrones in Dubrovnik, this particular town. And there was an old castle there where they used to pull up a chain across the thing to catch the boats like they do in the books and in the show. And there was this kid there. I was there with my son, and he wanted to do some archery inside the grounds of this castle, like inside the walls. They had like a target set up, and you could spend some money and get like 5 or 6 shots of a bow or a crossbow. It was pretty cool. And my son wanted to do that. And this kid, like he's 17, 18-year-old guy, really lovely guy, found out that I'm from Australia, and I sort of forgot the way he talked to me in a way like I was asking him all these questions. Like he really just wanted to just talk and tell me stuff and tell me about his life and tell me about this stuff. And I'm just some guy on holidays, and he was friendly and I was fine enough to do. But it just struck me this, and maybe it's I've been in Germany too long as well. People don't want to talk to you. But just this untethered openness and desire to just talk about stuff and themselves and whatever. So that's what I'm sort of imagining this elf to be like. It's sort of awkward for a little while, half an hour, something like that. And actually, let's see how long it does take. So we could do 15 kilometers in a shift. 15 kilometers is about that long. Almost exactly the distance from Deep Fall Breach to outskirt. So we're probably getting there. I think it's in the afternoon. I think we were down in the Orc Caves, probably at night. It was storming before. I think the storm has sort of cleared up a little bit. And so this Hackelswell is a grumpy old man duck, and he's just sort of rolling his eyes and stumping along quietly. And the less he talks, the more this elf just chews his ear off about this, that, and everything. And did you know that there's a kind of wood that only grows in the Magna Forest that can make the best recurve bows ever? And my father once told me that, all this sort of stuff. And just going on and on and on and on. And Hackelswell is really starting to regret the decision of the potential safety that this kid might provide. I mean, he did have a bow and arrow, and elves are typically a pretty good shot. So they get up to the garden. What do they see? They see as they come in, I can see on the map here that there appears to be some sort of crops and farmlands around the outside of the village there. And so that's where they get to. And then they could climb up over and through the crops, which seems a bit rude. There are sort of 2 entrances into this town. But Hackelswell absolutely has no... I would always go around to the gate, but Hackelswell, he has no consideration for other people and how they might feel about things. So when he gets up to this fence surrounding like some crops and a few small farmhouses, and he can't climb over it. It's just a small wooden fence, but he's a squat, fat, old, slow duck, and he tries to like get his little flipper up there, and Legoran, who has since told him his name, said, "Oh, do you need any help? I can give you a boost." And he's like, "Don't be ridiculous." He's trying to get it, and he's really failing, and Legoran is sitting there very politely, awkwardly watching, and then Hackelswell keeps looking over his shoulder at this boy who's really not. He's not looking amused or anything like that. He's just looking sort of politely embarrassed. And the next time Hackelswell looks up, and the elf is already standing on the other side of the fence. And so Hackelswell says, "Oh, there's sure." And he sits and he gets his hammer and he starts banging on the fence. And he's a craftsman, so he knows he hits exactly where the nail's in. Bang, 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 bang. Pops the top thing of the fence off and steps straight over. As he's doing this, the farmer comes running out and says, "What the hell are you doing? This is my fence." And he says, "It's no problem at all. It's an easy fix. You just need to hammer it on right there. I didn't break the wood. I didn't, I was like, what are you talking about? I did it perfectly. I haven't done any damage, But the farmer is obviously a little bit annoyed. Is he aggressive? I think, let's see, we've got a D4 if he's aggressive or not. No. I'm just going to roll on the fate chart because I want it to be at a disadvantage, like unlikely that he's aggressive. We take the highest result. That is a 2 and a 2. No, he's not aggressive. Okay. Oh, I shouldn't have asked. No, that's wrong. Because he's unlikely to be aggressive. Yeah, so I take the lowest result. It's a 2. So he's not aggressive. Okay, that's fine. In that case, he is friendly. That's nice. So he's like, oh, well, yes, I understand. It's a bit of a long way around, but do you mind maybe just helping me put this bit back on? And, straight away, Legoran's there. He's like, yes, sir, no problem at all. We can do this. And begrudgingly, Hackelswell is like, sort of grumbles away and he hits the thing and see, it's easy fixed. I don't know what you're worried about. He says, no, fine, no problem at all. And what brings you adventurers to Outskirt? We don't see all that many new people around here. And the ones that do, they don't stay long and we don't tend to see them again. And so they say, well, we're looking for this sacred site, which I don't know what it's called. Let's call it Old Stone. So we're looking for some sacred site called Old Stone, and do you think there is anyone in town that might be able to draw us a map or give us some better directions? Does the farmer know anyone? I think it's likely because he's a local and he's a farmer. 4, he does. So he says you can go into town and you can, looking at this typical NPC table here, you need to talk to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need to talk to the scholar. Well, that's fitting. The scholar is in town, and we need to go find them. We say, where can we find them? And he says, well, like all good scholars, you can mostly find her in the pub. So that's where we're going. We go to the pub. We find the scholar. She is friendly as well. Okay, let's see what she is. Oh, this is nice. So we're going to keep with the friendly. So this is the creating NPCs table. You roll D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, D20. I love this for some reason. Rolling one of every dice and then lining up these words. That's just wonderful. I'd like to see that done more. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. This is exciting. So we know they're friendly. They are a friendly elf who is escaping a dark past, and they we already know they're a scholar. It was going to be a bard, but we know they're a scholar. That's fine. They are a demon worshipper, and they are called Tira. Tira the demon worshipper. I do have to start making notes here now. Okay, so I've made a note of that. We have just a super brief bullet points. Oh, and that's the doorbell. It's a delivery. Maybe it's an RPG. I'll be back. So I know a lot of people find it difficult to know how much note-taking they should do. Like I say, when I'm not speaking, I take a lot more notes. Like looking at this now, this first adventure was 1, 2, 3, 4 full A4 pages of, and like I'm not even writing prose or anything. Like I'm writing, the door appears to be trapped, but we spot it. We disarm it. The door opens into a large tomb. There are 5 sarcophagi, that kind of thing. But it was still 4 bloody pages. So now I'm trying to keep it just sort of brief, but I guess it's sort of similar. I just feel like I have to write less when I've been speaking out loud, because then it triggers more. In fact, when I look at this, this dot points from this first thing, another goblin takes a shot, or perhaps this is the key. We study the map for a clue. That's not in my memory as much, having just written it. Whereas when I look back to my Fallout notes and it has just a small thing like Sosgade runs into some wild dogs, I feel like the imagery is much more present in my mind because I have said it out loud somehow. Maybe that's just me. So we now have a friendly elven scholar, escaping a dark past, and they are a demon worshipper called Tira. Does Tira know? In fact, I think she knows. Yeah, I don't think we're going to roll. She's a scholar. She's a demon worshipper. Yeah, she knows. Don't know why I rolled. It can be a tricky thing to work out, and I'm by no means an expert. Like, this is still one of the first RPG experiences outside of this Fallout thing that I've been doing, which I'm pretty comfortable with now. But even in that, knowing when and why to roll is important. Like, most of the time I'm pretty happy with just going with my intuition, but I do like feeling like the dice are there to interrupt my plans a little bit and draw new creativity or new ideas out of me. Otherwise, I'm just writing a book. But it is a really fine line, because if you roll too much, you can end up in a bit of a wall. So I rolled. Maybe that's the point. I rolled and I really wanted it to be yes. Maybe that is a point where I should not have rolled, but at least I rolled with advantage. Anyway, it was a yes. She does know exactly where it is. I say, can you draw us a map? Now, she probably doesn't want to do it for free, and her eyes do sort of light up when she says, and why exactly do you want to go there? Now, I did say that Hackelswell had not told Legoran about the book. But I think... Okay, let's do our first character roll here. This is a little bit retconny, sort of. I want to see whether Hackelswell accidentally mentioned the book in all of this talk that was going on with Legoran. It could be bluffing. I think he needs to make a bluffing roll, because at some stage, with all the talking that Legoran was doing, at some stage he asked about why you're going there. And I want to know whether Hackelswell succeeded a bluffing roll. And if he did, then Legoran has no idea. If he didn't, then Legoran has a hint that it has something to do with this big, heavy book that maybe he spotted in Hackelswell's backpack, or maybe he just let it slip, something as well. So if Hackelswell fails this bartering roll, he needs to roll a 6 or under on a d20. If he fails it, then Legoran knows about the book. That's a 3. He does not. So Legoran has no clue about the book. What I was going to do there is maybe roll to see if Legoran let something slip to this bloody demon worshipper, who was probably quite interested in a very important tome about the demons. But happily, he doesn't know about it, so he can't let it slip. The scholar, Tira, does want to know what it's about. And I think we're going to... Either we're going to lie to her, or persuade her to draw us a map. And, we'll buy her a beer. That doesn't seem like enough. Okay, well, bloody Legoran's even less persuasive than me. So, she's friendly. So we're going to just ask we're going to see if we can persuade her, if we can both persuade her, which gives us a boon on the roll, which means we roll 2 dice and take the better result, which in this case is lower. We're going to try and persuade her to draw us a map for nothing. I think Legoran has the wherewithal to say, I think maybe you should buy her a beer. So I think it doesn't occur to Hackelswell necessarily to be that friendly, but I think he is persuaded to buy a beer. Say it costs 5 silver. I don't know what beers cost. So we do buy her a beer first. And so I think between the beer and both of us trying to convince her, we have a boon to the roll. So we need to persuade her to just tell us where it is, or can she write us a map? If she does, then we'll come back and we'll tell her all about it, because she's clearly interested in the place. So there's a persuasion. We need a 6 to get it. We're rolling 2 dice. We roll a 7 and a 7. We are not able to persuade her to give it to us for nothing. So she says, I can tell you where it is, but I do, and thanks for the beer, by the way, but I do want something in return. And now we're going to draw the adventure card. See, I think I can just come in and do like one simple little quest or something, but always, and it's like playing a good RPG on the computer or something as well, always something comes up that spirals things off in different directions, and you got to just embrace it. I think that is half of the fun. So she needs help with something. She's escaping a dark past. I think I'm going to draw, I don't know what the rules are on this, but I'm just going to draw 2 adventure cards, and without looking too closely at them, pick the one that makes the most sense for her character. So we have Tower of Size and the Bertilda's Load. So that one's about dwarves, and that one's about a bog. Okay, so we're going to take the one about the bog. Tower of Sky. So she says that there is a disgusting bog about a day's march east of here, and it's crawling with blood-sucking leeches and insects. Now, she wants insects and leeches for her research experiments, and what we don't know, she says it is a hideout for bandits, which is why she doesn't go there, because she's not a fighter, but she needs someone to go there and collect leeches and insects. I'm going to ignore the rest of the text. The rest of the text says there are vast riches in the sludge and buried beneath in the ruins of an ancient watchtower. People call it the Tower of Size. We don't know about that yet. She's not just handing out this information here. Let's look at the map. What does it say? A day's march to the east. So I think that this tower is to the east of Outskirt. There are the haunted marshes. There appears to be like sort of marshland. Picture a little bit like in Lord of the Rings, where they're going through the marshland there with lots of pools of water and sort of rivers, and not really rivers, but you know what I mean. There appears to be a lot of sort of dead swampy trees. There is a little building just at the entrance to it, and then right at the back of the marsh there is a creepy looking tower with a spike on top. So I think that is the Tower of Screams of Size. She hasn't told us about that. She just says there is some marshes there, and I need this particular insect, whatever it is, some glowing insect, and I need leeches from there because the leeches there have been sucking different blood. And so she says, if you can go back and you can get me some moderate amount of leeches and fireflies, sure, then she will draw us a map. Okay. And we have our first little quest. Well, side quest. My question is actually, does she tell us about the bandits? Normal roll. 6. Extreme, yes. So she does tell us about the bandits, since she says, in fact, there are bandits there. They are pretty well known in the area. They are often, I don't know if they're raiding Outskirt. Maybe they do raid Outskirt. Or they are often, okay, so they're well known. And one of the reasons that people don't go on these eastern roads so much, they're well known for robbing people along the road. And they have a hideout in the marshes somewhere. And we know about that, she told us. So because it was an extreme yes, she's going to give a lot of detail about the bandits, and that they do get you on the road. So I think that's going to give us a bit of an advantage where we're just going to kind of keep off the road a little bit. There is a little smattering of trees, like a small forest, and a hilly area, a little bit to the south of the road. But that's going to be not too much of a detour, and that's going to make sure that we avoid at least most of the stretch of road, and we're only going to have to cross the road at one point before we get to the marshes. In the marshes, there is a little area of alive trees by the look of it. There's lots of like withered, dead, scary trees. There's also a little patch of green with some normal looking trees. So I think that's where these insects are going to be. And she needs to study them because there is something going on about this little patch of land there in the marshes that it is really, everything else is dead and swampy, and it is really full of life and prosperous somehow. There also seems to be a little hut with like a witch's cauldron down there. Interesting. We'll come across that later. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to travel along south, along the edge of the forest, not going deep into the forest, which is also dangerous, but just staying like one layer of trees in, so we're sort of out of sight, and just going to cross the road at this one point. We need some supplies. I think we're just going to spend... I think she's going to give us whatever we need to catch the bugs. I guess a net and a jar. I don't know. And we're going to set off. I think we're going to rest here. We probably have to figure out how much we have to pay to rest here. And then in the morning, we're going to head off. And I'll just see if this is all one episode or not. Who knows how much I'm going to edit out. If not, thank you for joining me on this experimental actual play of DragonBane on the Solo RolePlayers Podcast. If you like this, I'd really love to hear the feedback. Like I say, experiment. Don't know if I'm going to want to do it. We didn't really get into any action here per se, which is why maybe I will do another half of this and make it into one episode. I'm not yet sure, in which case you won't hear this outro anyway. Please let me know what you think. Do you like this? Was it interesting? Just hearing how I'm sort of coming up with things, even though there was no action adventure, and I mean, just hearing that story starting to come together somewhat naturally. Do you find it interesting? Do let me know. Send me an email on soloroleplayerspodcast@gmail.com, or find me lurking around the Solo Roleplayer Reddit threads, PJSack. And yeah, let me know. Next time on the show, we have more wonderful interviews. I'm also going to get brave enough soon to try a complete blind one-shot, which you will see in the description of the episode. This is going to be actual play, we have interview, and I think we're going to have one shot as well. We'll just see, not sure how it's going to work. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to having you back on the next episode of the Solo RolePlayers Podcast. Surprise, it's not one episode. We are continuing on with this story. Maybe this is a second episode. Who knows? Time is meaningless. We left off, we got a side quest that Tira, the scholar, the demon worshipping or ex-demon worshipping scholar. I like that for maybe a Dungeon Crawl Classics monster, the ex-demoning worshipping Scallop. Scholar is escaping a dark past, and she has set us on a mission. She needs us to collect some strange insects that are off in the haunted marshes in a strange little healthy area, healthy patch of greenery that is somewhere in the middle there. She has told us that there are bandits along the road and has suggested that we take a path to the south following a tree line, or at least that we avoid the road, and we're deciding to follow the tree line so that we don't have to go all along the road and we only have to cross the road at one point. What we don't know is that there is a tower in the marshes called the Tower of Size, I think it was called. It was on an adventure card here, which I have now lost. I will find it. Tower of Size, with vast riches in the sludge buried beneath the ruins of an ancient watchtower. But we don't know about that yet. We'll see if we come across it. We have spent the night in Outskirt. We are paying some amount of money. Let me see if I can find how much money we might pay. Nope, can't find it. Let's say we spend 4 gold to spend in the inn. Grubby, no, not grubby. That's from the excellent Sweden Rolls podcast that do a season on DragonBane, which is just wonderful. I highly recommend it. Grubby the Mallard, similar character to this, but not inspired, accidental. So that means we have 20, I'm mystified by mechanical pencils sometimes, 26 gold left. I don't know if we overpaid now. Hackelswell was sort of looking expectantly at the young elf to pay the bill when it came round to breakfast time in the morning, and the elf just looked at it and said, I don't have any money. Just completely innocently. Not very well-travelled or life-experienced, this young elf. So, I think we have everything else we need from when we rolled up the character. We have a lantern, we have D8 worth of rations. The way rations work in this, I really like. I think this is becoming a more popular concept. It is usage die, I think it's called, and that's, long story short, you start at a certain level of usage die, in this case a D8. Every time you use that thing, whether it's rations or arrows or something like that, you roll the dice, and if you roll a 1 or a 2, then you step down to the next biggest dice. If you get down to a D4 and roll a 1 or a 2, you are then out of that thing. And that's really nice because you're not tracking things. It's a little exciting dice roll. It sort of still gives you the feeling of reducing your supplies, but without meticulously counting every arrow you have. It's sort of like looking in the bag and being like, yeah, I've got enough. So we are setting off. It is now morning. We are rested. I am no longer angry, thank you very much. After a few ales in the tavern, I think I spent a bit of silver on some ales there. Let's say we got 48 silver left. Really calms Hackelswell down, having a few ales and telling anyone who will listen about the exact properties of monster hide when you design your own jig to pierce it to put the certain studs in to make the best quality leather armor. I don't know. Unfortunately, his leather armor is not very good. I guess he always sold his weapons. But we will hunt some major creature at some stage, I'm sure. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's go hunt a major creature so we can make some awesome armor, which I'm okay with doing because this is a seriously deadly game, and playing solo, it's very likely to die, as I discovered in that first quest mission that I did in the Deepfall Breach, and sort of, wouldn't say cheated, but I narratively explained how I didn't die. Moving on. We get up and we move off, heading south. So, we are now going into, looking at my map here. Let me make a little note while I'm going here. After spending a night at the inn, they set off. We are going to head at this point to, so we sort of exit the town on the southernmost road. It then splits to the northeast and then further down to the south. And instead of following the road, we're going to walk straight through the fields towards the tree line down the bottom. That is one stretch. So we've gone now morning to lunchtime, midday, whatever it said the next thing was. And then we're going to roll to see if we have an encounter. I think it's unlikely because we're still pretty close to town. It's daytime. It's still close to town. And it's not on the path where the bandits are known to hang out. So we're going to roll on an unlikely. Do we have an encounter? Nope, we don't. Nothing happens. We're walking along, and just as Hackelswell was feeling better about being rested and stuff, maybe he's sort of warming up to this elf a little bit. I mean, it is hard to stay mad at Legoran. It's would be like kicking a puppy, you know. He's so earnest. And so we're walking along, and then we get down to the tree line, walking along the tree line. I think we stop there and have lunch. We'll tick the threat die up. There are going to be traps somewhere. And I think that really makes a lot of sense by the time we get into the swamp there. So I'm not sure. I'm just going to have a quick look if there is an NPC talk table and wonder if Elf Boy, what he wants to talk about. I think probably he's already... Let's Let's see what his motivation is, actually. In fact, wait a sec. I'm going to ask my son what his motivation is because he's in the next room building minis. Hang on. I'm sitting down with your character. We're going off on a little quest.
Yes.
And I want to know, when we sit and have a little break and we start to chat and I actually ask you, so what are you doing out here anyway, Legoran?
My village in the north burnt down by a dragon and we all ran away.
Good. And now what do you want to do? What are you trying to achieve now?
To kill that dragon.
Ooh. Excellent. Thank you. That's all. Go back to your minis. Can you shut the door, please? No? Okay, I'll do it. So you heard it yourself. There was a dragon attack on Legoran's village, and he, as green as he is determined to go and kill this dragon. And this is the first time that Hackelswell has seen him sort of angry. He's starting to get agitated, and he's just with that blind confidence and spirit and conviction, he is going to go and kill this dragon. Now, Hackelswell knows a thing or two about dragons, or does he? Let's roll on a Myths and Legends check to see what he knows about dragons. I'm going to give him a boon on this because I think, being a tanner, he's interested in beasts, right? Myths and Legends, he has a 6 in. But he's interested in beasts, and certainly beasts that you can make cool armor out of. So, giving him a boon on that, that means if we roll a 6 or under on either of the die, we know about dragons. Maybe even this dragon. Oh, baby, that is a 1. That is a critical success, also known as a dragon. So not only does Hackelswell know about dragons, he knows about this dragon. From the descriptions of Legoran and how he's talking about this dragon, he knows about this dragon. And he knows that if I open the bestiary quickly and find a random dragon, that's going to be different music than what is playing in my ears in the episode. Manticores, Hydra, Griffin, Chimera, a Brookhorse, but that's creepy. Dragon, starting at 124. Ooh. Okay. Here we go. This is exciting. This is going somewhere else. Now, I'm going to get Legoran back again to see if he can tell us which dragon it is. Now, Legoran, I was just telling the audience that Hackelswell, when you describe your attack of the dragon on your village, that Hackelswell actually knows about this dragon. And he knows about dragons, and so he starts describing some dragons to you. Can you identify which dragon it was that burnt down your village? Was it this one? Was it this one? Was it this one? Or was it that one?
Can I maybe see them again?
Yes, you may. Feel free to flick through. So, for the audience, we're looking at a young dragon, an adult dragon, an ancient dragon, or a lindworm.
I think the adult dragon.
Excellent, thank you very much. Guilty as charged, adult dragon. Thank you. Shut the door. As Hackelswell is describing, his eyes light up and he thinks he knows a little bit about dragons, and he always wanted to get his hand on some dragon scales and dragon skin to make the most beautiful armor that he could think of. As he's describing the young dragon, and he says, quite thin with a long, thin tail, whatever. And as he describes the adult dragon, and in the book, the adult dragon says, oh yes, there's a dragon in these parts. It never paid any attention to us until we started damming the creek. That made it furious. It smashed the dam and ate everyone working on it. Then things calmed down again. So I think that maybe Legoran's people were damming this creek in the forest for technological reasons, and it really pissed off the dragon. So we can bring that in for a random encounter later, and we'll come back to that. It's an adult dragon. That's fantastic. So that is Legoran's motivation, and Hackelswell is starting to warm up to him now. This young, impressionable kid could be useful. I mean, he's now seen him doing a little bit of hunting along the way, and he does seem to be a crack shot with that bow and arrow. So that's good. We stopped and had a rest. We do another stretch, and now we see if there's a random encounter. I would say now we are... we're about... Okay, the next stretch will get us to the road. So let's see if we have a random encounter. I say we get to the road, and as we get there, we sort of slow down and we start being a bit more aware because we can see the road ahead, and we're very aware of the bandits maybe being there. So I'm going to do just a... Now that we're on the road, I think it's likely that we see something, but we still may have the element of surprise and be able to sneak and get an advantage. So, is there a random encounter at the road? Likely. Nope, there isn't. So somewhat pleasingly, but also a little bit worryingly, there doesn't appear to be anything at all going on down here. There is a sort of a creek with a sunken statue in it. And we can see a bridge a little bit further to the north. No, in fact, Tira had said that once we do hit the road, we have to follow it north so that we can find the bridge into the swamps. Let me just look more closely at the map here. Okay. There is a bit of a bridge into the swamps up north, but I think that Hackelswell says, well, no, this is ridiculous. I'm not going across any bridge where there's going to be bandits around. I'm a bloody duck. I can swim it. So he is going to swim across. He gets a boon to swimming, of course, always at full speed. And I think it's not a fast running river. I mean, this is like marshlands, so it's got to be pretty dank. Swimming is only 8. Okay. So he goes to swim. He says, let me get across and then I'll work you out later. So we need an 8. We're rolling 2 dice. We get a 5, so we make it. So he effortlessly swims across. Ooh, and I rolled a dragon before on something, and that means I get to tick on it. What was the thing I rolled before? Not going to go back in the audio, but it was Myths and Legends. Excellent. So that means we're going to get a chance at increasing that. The way it works here is when you do roll a crit, either hit or fail, you get to put a little mark next to the skill, and then you have an opportunity at the end of the session to increase the skill with that weapon. That's instead of experience points and leveling up. Excellent. So now he gets over there and he hops out the other side and he shakes his little tail off, and Legoran is going to try. Now, I don't know how he's going to try and do it. Let me see if I can do some kind of NPC thing. I'd like to just ask my son again, but he's busy. I don't want to keep annoying him. Let me try something. Let's roll on the NPC behavior, which we'd usually use in combat, but maybe it will just give us a bit of a hint about what's going on. That'd be a D6, and that would be a 5, so wild attack. So what he's going to do is he's going to... he's very impressed with Hackelswell swimming across there. He can't swim, but he's also, he's bulletproof. He's young. He's just going to try it. So he just sort of, without really thinking much about it, bow still in hand, he just sort of runs and jumps into the water, legs waving in the air. Let's see if he can swim. He has a swimming ability of 6. He does not swim. I'm going to make it, I would have made it a Bane because it's wild, and he rolls 211. So he wouldn't have swum anyway. So he gets in there and he basically, smile on his face, steps out into the open water, and then his face changes to panic as he realizes he can't swim, and he sinks down and starts floating below. Now, Hackelswell is going to have to try and rescue him. Hackelswell is a good swimmer. I guess he's pretty strong. Yeah, he's got a strength of 13. So he is going to try and pull the guy out using... what? Bushcraft? No. I guess it's using swimming again. So he's using swimming again. He can rescue him. He needs to roll an 8 on 2 dice, and he does succeed. On both die, a 5 and a 7. So, wet and embarrassed, Legoran gets pulled out onto the safe side of the water. And that has taken some extra time, which takes the threat up to 5. Now, we had said the threat was traps. I think I've changed that. The threat is definitely bandits. Or maybe it's a trap that the bandits come in on. We'll see when we get that. So they are now across the first little thing of marshes. They're going to have to pick their way through. They're going to have to swim across 2 more rivers to get into the green part. And we were now at lunchtime or so. We've done another shift. I think probably 1, 2, 3 shifts. Let me check again what that is. I know there's 4 shifts in a day, but we probably do have to make camp and sleep at this point. I think it was page 11. It was not. It was page 7. So we can decide to either take a rest and heal. We don't actually need to heal, but we need to eat and stuff. That's what we're going to do. We're not crazy. We don't need to push through into the night, although it's pretty creepy sitting out here on the marshes. But I think that's exactly what we do. We feel reasonably safe. We're going to make camp. That means I'm going to use a ration doing this thing where I roll a d8. If I roll a 1 or a 2, we step down on the rations. That is a 6, so we are fine for rations. Wonderful. I have a flint and tinder, so we're going to light a little fire to try and keep the bugs away or attract the bugs. I guess it attracts the bugs. Keep warm, not sure, light a little fire. But it does make it more likely for someone to come onto us in the night. And actually, because that would tick our threat up to 6, that is exactly what happens. So perhaps being a little bit naive to light a fire in the swamps so near to a known bandit hideout, we are come upon in the night. Had I thought about that and made some preparations, we wouldn't have got ambushed. However, I did not think about it. We did not make preparations, and we get ambushed. We have... How many bandits do we have? 1. There's 1 bandit. Okay, so this is a sneaky... 1 lone bandit who was doing his nighttime patrols saw the fire, and rather than getting together, maybe he's a young guy as well, rather than getting together his allies and compatriots, he decides to see if he can do a little nighttime throat slitting instead and collect all the goods for himself of these clearly stupid and unprepared travelers who have lit a fire right in the middle of the marshes, where not only are there bandits, but there are clearly horrible creepy crawlies as well. We need to see if we are aware. Now, I don't think either of us are very good adventurers. I think Hackelswell probably, he's experienced in a lot of things, but not in flat-out adventuring. And he is good at fighting, but only because he's strong and good with a hammer and whatnot. Axes, brawling, hammers. So we get a boon to our roll. Because there's 2 of us, and we can help each other, maybe that cancels it out to a normal roll. And then we take our highest awareness, which is 10. Well, that's nice. It's an 11. Neither of us notice as the bandit sneaks up on us, and he is going to take out who? 1 to 6, it is Hackelswell. Sorry, 1 to 3, Hackelswell. 4 to 6, it is Legoran. It is Hackelswell. So he comes up to Hackelswell, and with a dagger, he is going to do... what's a dagger worth of damage? And I'm going to say that there is an improvised weapon at our camp here, which is a patch of dirt. So I do have a grid here, like one of those dry erasable grid things. Not sure how I feel about using it. I did it before and I sort of like it. I like the positioning and stuff in this game. This game's pretty deadly. I think you have to be pretty thoughtful and clever with things like positioning. I just find it a bit awkward to like draw on and rub out, and I keep getting ink on my fingers. Maybe there's a better way. Maybe someone will tell me. Combat 45. I don't know. Okay, so they get an extra d6 damage because they get a boon and they get an extra d6 damage. Jesus Christ. Because we are prone. Well, that sucks, but it's absolutely fair enough. I want to know where my weapons stats are, guys. Melee weapon 74. Melee weapon 74. Let's say he's gonna have a dagger because he's a. Oh, ouch! So it's gonna be a 1d8 plus a d6 with advantage, with a boon. Oh man, that is rough. So let's just give him a minion statistics. He has an attribute of 10. Does he hit us? He does. He rolls a 6 and a 12. One of them is enough to get us because it was rolling with a boon. And he hits us for a d8 plus a d6 damage, which is happily only 4 damage. That is nice. That could have ended our story really straight away right here. So, 4 damage. I can soak up 1 because of my leather armor. That means he does 3 damage. But now we are both awake and we will draw initiative. Now, I'm not going to, because this is a small area, unless anyone else comes into the fight, I'm not going to bother drawing all this out and stuff. I think it can be fine for Theater of the Might here. Plus, anyway, it's better for radio, I guess. Drawing initiative. We have Legoran at 7, Hackelswell at 4, and the enemy at 8. Okay, this is good. We're both going to get to act before the bandit does. So the first thing that's going to happen is I think the bandit goes to try and slit the throat of Hackelswell, but he sort of realizes it as it's happening, and the bandit manages to just stab him in the shoulder. And Hackelswell jumps up and pulls out his axe. His knife? Why do we only have a knife? Man, we definitely went and bought a better weapon. Yeah, that was something I was going to do. So I'm going to buy back in Outskirt, I'm going to buy either an axe. What are we good at? We're good at axes and we're good at hammers. We had a hammer. Surely. I mean, we're a tanner. I was going to replace it with a hammer. I'm not going to buy it. So the hammer, it's not a war hammer. What sort of bloody hammer is it? Well, I guess it's a light war hammer. Okay, so we have a light war hammer. Also doubles happily as a weapon crafting hammer. It is one-handed. It is gonna do 2d6 damage. 2d6 damage, and it has a durability of 12. Yes, son.
Hi.
Hi.
3 minis in 1 hour.
Wow, well done. Good
and
job.
one of those minis was one of the hardest minis I've ever done.
Really?
He had lots of different pieces.
Cool.
Here's the one with the sniper. Like, for example, look, you had the sniper as a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had like a little arm plate that goes on,
Yep.
and then you had the other arm that went on the shoulder and on the gun. Because he
Oh.
was holding it.
Yeah.
And then he had 2 guns here and here,
Mm-hmm.
and then extra stuff for the legs, and then also the thing.
Wow, very complicated.
Yeah, there was also an easier version.
Yeah.
That he didn't have the sniper, he just had a little gun and a shield.
Mm.
But I thought the sniper was way cooler.
Very nice. You finished there now?
No, I'm doing some more.
Okay, keep going. Shut the door.
What's happening?
Oh, you want to know what's happening? Well, we just... let me show you the map here.
I remember that map.
We came into Outskirt, and we need to find... When we went into the Deepfall Breach, we found a grimoire, which is like a big magic book, which is really important. And this guy told us that we need to go up here to return the book, and once we get there, we need to find the book's home, where it has a magical barrier to keep it safe. We don't know how to get there exactly, so we came here. We found a scholar who knows where to go, and she wouldn't draw us a map unless we went and collected some insects for her experiments or whatever, over here in the Haunted Marshes. She also told us that we shouldn't go along the road because there's lots of bandits, so we came along here, crossed the road here, didn't find any bandits. You jumped in the river, realized you couldn't swim, and Hackelswell had to dive in and rescue you. Being a duck, he can swim. Pulled you out, camped here, and while we were camping, because neither of us are good adventurers, we didn't set a watch or we didn't prepare the campsite for any invaders or anything. Yeah, you're a hunter, but not an adventurer. You're just a kid, mate. And so then a single bandit who was also inexperienced, came up and tried to kill Hackelswell in his sleep. Just hurt him a little bit, and he jumped up, and now we're about to get into combat. Cool. Hackelswell then picks up his hammer and attempts to topple, which I've forgotten how that works, but attempts to topple the bandit. We're going to see if we hit first. We then would be hitting on a 12. And it's an 11, so we do hit, and we do 2d6 worth of damage. Doing 7 damage. They have no armor, and they have 12 hit points. Note-making time. So they only have 5 hit points left, and then I think Legoran is going to go take a shot, but he's hesitant to actually kill someone here. So he holds the thing and he says, "Freeze, stop where you are, or I'll shoot." And we're going to see if the bandit is going to run away or not. Hackelswell has no qualms about murdering this bandit who tried to stab him in the throat, but we'll see if it runs away. So that means we're going to make it's just all attributes a 10, so it's going to do a check and see if it runs away or not. If it rolls under 10, she holds her ground. It's a 2. So she holds her ground, and she says she's not moving. Let's go back to the NPC attack table, and we're going to see what Legoran is going to do. Are we going to try and, tie them up? Or are we going to push Legoran to shoot the thing? We're going to roll again on the thing. Roll a d6. That is a 3, which means take a shot. So Hackelswell yells at Legoran, "Do it, do it." And he's going to take the shot. With bows, that's a 12. 16. So he actually misses. Unlimited arrows? Really, son? Surely not. Takes a shot and misses. And it is now the bandit's turn. Are they going to run, or are they going to attack? This run or surrender is over 10. It's a 3. They're going to keep on attacking. 1 to 3, they're attacking Hackelswell again. It's a 6, so they are attacking Legoran. And there was an attack table here somewhere. Why? This is like a 6-page book, and I feel like it's Teflon for me, and I'm sure that's just me and not the book. NPC attack table? What the hell, man? Whatever, we're on the NPC table. So they are... The arrow whistles past their ear, and they scream and run towards Legoran, I think. 3, they deal a blow. So they run towards Legoran, and they deal a blow against him. Yes, son.
Are you still in combat? Yes. Can I help?
Yes. You just missed your shot. And the bandit is now attacking you with a dagger.
Should I roll?
Yeah, you can roll for the bandit. The bandit's attacking you. If you roll under a 10, they hit. 14, they miss. And then we get to draw initiative again. So now it's a proper fight. No one is running away at this point. We do have an improvised weapon here, which is a patch of dirt, just so you know, which means you can throw the dirt in the eyes of the attacker, which means they're going to get a bane on elections. That's something you can do on your turn as your action. So dealing initiative.
Yeah, I haven't played DragonBane at all. Just one little session.
Exactly. So initiative. Your initiative is 4. That's good. Mine is lower is better.
Oh, okay.
7 is mine and 8 is the enemy again. So you get to go first. Legoran, what are you going to do? We are standing around this campfire. We're in pretty close range. You have your bow out. After your shot, you did that elf thing where you like whip another arrow straight out of your shoulder and put it back in the thing. Like that arrow necklace you have hanging around your neck that we got from that place in Dubrovnik that I already talked about.
Not Dubrovnik, but yeah.
No, where was it?
Trogia.
It was in Trogia, not Dubrovnik. Thank you very much. Please roll for your attack. If you are going to attack, wait, you can look at your skills. You have the ability to... You can use your knife. You can use your longbow.
I'll take a step back and use my bow.
Okay, so you take a step back and you take another shot at this guy. You are going to hit on a 12.
18.
That is an 18. So you miss again. You are so... Legoran is so freaked out by the possibility of killing someone else that they're really... It's almost like he's not trying to hit them. He can't quite bring himself to do it. So that was your turn. It is now Hackelswell's turn, and he rolls his eyes at this elf who he only joined up with because he thought he could defend. He's seen this elf be a really good shot and hunting squirrels and things, and now twice in a row he's just missed, and so he says, right, that's it. I'm going to finish it, and he is going to attack the bandit with his hammer. He's now behind the bandit, which I can't remember about the rules, but I think that gives him a bane. He's behind the bandit. The bandit's... a boon. Behind the bandit, we're going to hit on a 12 on the best die, and we get it on both dice. So he hits in the back of the head with the hammer, the bandit, doing 2d6 damage, which is 6, and that is enough to kill the bandit who tried to take us out in the night.
Okay.
Job well done. Thanks for your help. High five. The bandit is dead and Legoran is quite shaken. Let's see if the bandit had anything on them. I'll say it's unlikely. We'll roll to see if they had anything on them. Nope, they didn't have anything on them. So I rolled 2d6, I rolled a 3 and a 5. The 3 means no. I think. 3 means no. But we have learned a valuable lesson. We are not adventurers. We need to be a bit more careful setting camp in these dangerous times and places. We continue on our way to the patch of land that we were told about, where we can find the insects. Time to update the notes. Deadies. D-E-A-D-I-E-S. Deadies. Continue on. Defeat the bandit to the clearing. We'll just call it the clearing. So we get there and we find the insects, and I think we spend the rest of the afternoon sort of gaily jumping around catching insects in nets. Do we find anything else there? Now, I think this is likely, just because that's how adventure narrative works. Do we find anything else there? Yes, we do. I think we find a sign leading to... It's not officially called the Tower of Sighs. It has some other very impressive name. But this probably before it was a marsh was a road or something and leading towards this ancient tower. So we do see a tower there. And in the next episode, if we do continue another episode, will Hackelswell and Legoran take the insects back and continue on their original quest? Or will they get a little bit greedy and think about what kinds of treasures there might be in the tower? Stay tuned, maybe one day, to find out what happens next time on this DragonBane adventure called The Grimoire, apparently, as I scribbled in my notes. On the Solo RolePlayers Podcast, thank you again for joining me today. As I said earlier, if I edited it out, you can contact me at soloroleplayerspodcast@gmail.com. You can find me, PJSack, floating around on the Solo Role Playing Reddit thread. At the moment, that's the only way you can contact me. Please tell me if you liked it. I don't know how this is going to sound. I don't know how it went. Like I said, I wanted to do something that was in one take, in a single session, and didn't require complex mixing or anything like that, or any writing. I'm really just going to sit down and edit out the boring bits and try and cut it down to a reasonable amount of time, and maybe you like it. Maybe it's good. Either way, I'm going to continue with this idea where I take an unknown RPG and do a one-shot in it. But I'm having fun playing DragonBane, so I might just keep doing DragonBane as well. We have more interviews coming up in the next episodes. I have a heap of interest in people who A, want to be interviewed, B, want me to interview people that they follow and like. Lots of content. Lots of content's good. Thank you again, and I look forward to having you all back next time for whatever it is on the Solo RolePlayers Podcast. Goodbye.